When you're at the gaming table playing TTRPGs with your pals, does it ever feel like one day you're playing epic adventures like in The Lord of the Rings and another day it's filled with the goofy antics of the Muppets? Well, today we're going to talk about how tone and harnessing this secret weapon can make for long-lasting, fun campaigns.
So tone in Land of Eem is really important, and it was a huge focus for us on how to approach the game and how we want the game to feel when people are playing it. And tone has a huge impact on the gameplay. If you're playing this super grimdark campaign and everyone's on board with it, that's awesome, right? And if you're playing a really silly game for a long time and everyone has buy-in, that's really good too. But in our experience, like just playing a game that's one note really shortens the game's lifespan, and being able to shift from serious to silly to, everything in between, high adventure. We feel that makes for really long and more rewarding campaigns.
Yeah. And so when Ben and I are playing tabletop games, we notice that over the decades that we've been playing together with our friends, that this shift in tones always happened naturally. Even when we would play a more serious campaign, there were always moments where we would be joking around or doing silly things or getting into all kinds of hijinks. But it's just like Ben said, I often feel that putting too much pressure on keeping something one note can eliminate some of the dynamics of what makes it actually fun to hang out with your friends and play these games.
Yeah. So when we were approaching it, we really approached it like we do when we write stories, and we wanted the game to reflect our stories of, Rickety Stitch, for example. He's a silly guy. He's really silly. Okay. He's a skeleton bard, but he has like such a dark background. He was resurrected by Lich.
You may have to do that again. There's no way I'll be able to edit that properly. Just give it a
I think it'll be fine.
Okay. All right. I'll leave this in too. We're leaving all this in, guys. You know what? This is how the sausage is made. And you're just going to see it from now on. No edits. We're going,
I'll do it again.
We're going 100%. You're going to watch us stumble and dick around. This is an inside look at the creation of Land of Eem and the Wizards of Eem podcast.
I thought it wasn't too terrible, and it may be funny, but I don't know.
We'll see. 10 to keep all of this in. All of it. 100%.
All right, but I'm going to start over.
Yes, you're going to start over. Everybody just take a minute. Ben is going to start over now.
So take Rickety Stitch, for example, who is a silly character. He's a goofy guy. He's a ne'er-do-well in a dungeon, but he has this really dark past. And just like the whole backstory of the world is really dark, it's a post-apocalyptic setting.
Yeah, the Land of Eem is quite literally a world that is ruled by the bad guys.
Yes. So we wanted our game to encapsulate that. And what we did was we came up with 3 different tones for our adventures and our quests. The first is called Doom and Gloom. That is, encompasses all of the, everything that has to do with the Lich, basically.
That's your Lich tone.
No, but anything that's darker, more serious, perilous, like really Conan the Barbarian type stuff. And then we have Daring Do, which is like Lord of the Rings, and The Princess Bride, just like high adventure, stuff like that. And then we've got Hijinks, which really represents the Muppets aspect. And so we created these tones so everything could be clearly labeled and you could know what you're getting into exactly with your group.
Yeah, it's about being able to have the flexibility of picking and choosing and understand, for example, how the sandbox works or different adventures works, but also as a guideline to help, support the idea of creating a game that's going to have tonal shifts. Some of our biggest inspirations are things that have tonal shifts. I mean, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings are examples where you've got warm and fuzzy hobbits living in their shire, doing their things, but they got to go throw an evil sorcerer god's ring into a volcano. So it's like, there's a huge disparity between the Shire and the quest, right?
Let's dig a little deeper into why tone actually matters. One thing, like we were saying, it sets the expectations of how you're going to play. The players and the game master know what kind of story they're stepping into. Okay, that's good as a session 0 type thing, or
set those expectations kind of
jumping into a new leg of your campaign. But it also affects how players approach problems. If you're in a really serious moment You want to bring an element of strategy and drama, and you want your character to act accordingly, right? You don't want them to be a complete goofball all the time.
Right.
You know, a little comic relief couldn't hurt.
True.
And if you're, you know, in a silly heist, like trying to, you know, break up a wedding or something like that, you don't want your edgelord grimdark guy to just, you know, slay everyone.
I killed the officiant. What? No, we didn't need you to do that.
But the most important thing that we think what tone shifts and tone, like being able to harness tone in your game does, it allows for more dynamic play. It allows you to shift between tones so you can refresh these long campaigns. It doesn't have to be one note the whole time and players get sick of it. You get sick of it. It breaks up the gameplay and how people are approaching problems and how the story is being told.
Camaraderie is something that you can build by having tonal shifts, where the players themselves are actually having fun getting into hijinks and handling these challenges in different ways. Maybe it is adventurous. Maybe it is super goofy antics. Maybe it is epic grimdark battle with a dragon.
You know, on the flip side, these moments of hijinks that you're talking about, they do provide, I think, more opportunity to dive into quirky aspects of characters, unexpected things. Whereas when you're like in this really drama heavy, dark game, yes, you can come upon some interesting character dynamics between each other, but they're often just so rooted in sadness.
Laughter is a natural element around any game table because people are having fun while they're playing games. So it's not a bad thing to make it a part of the game and to reward that activity and create that camaraderie. Because if the players are working together and they're laughing together and then they're faced with a challenge that's quite serious, that amps up the drama because they really care about each other. And so you may go from breaking up a wedding quest that's really, really funny only to find out that the bride's father is an Archduke of Eviltown.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Archduke of Eviltown. Yeah.
So let's take a minute to dive a little bit deeper into how Land of Eem does it. When we're developing Land of Eem, we wanted to make not a mechanic, but a guideline for generating tones, something that would be simple enough for a game master or game designer to use to come up with an adventure and easy enough for a player to instantly understand so that they'd be able to jump into the game with the right mindset.
And also for the GM to sort of vet the quests and adventures on site. Like immediately you see it's a Doom and Gloom game.
Right.
Not in the mood for that today.
Yes. And then all that can be decided at a glance. And the Muckland sandbox setting and all of our adventures, there's a little guide at the top that says, you know, this adventure is this tone. And so speaking of tones, we've got 3. We mentioned it before. There's Hijinks, Daring Do, and Doom and Gloom. So Hijinks, obviously, that's going to be your Muppets. That's going to be your Adventure Time vibe. And Daring Do, that's going to be The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, maybe even The Princess Bride. Sprinkle a little humor in there. And then Doom and Gloom, that's where you'll meet, you know, the Conan the Barbarian tone, or even the Dark Crystal, which has definitely got a darker tone than other Muppets things, but still retains that, the visual aesthetic and that kind of adventurous spirit that you would get from that kind of story.
And so with Hijinks, you're really, you know, playing into the fun, lighthearted, like lots of absurdity going on, and players are really encouraged to avoid combat. Land of Eem allows many opportunities to not fight. Hijinks adventures and quests are prime opportunities to just get into situations where you get out of trouble through talking instead of getting into a huge fight, a huge combat slog.
Or maybe a prank or some sort of other ridiculous solution to...
Yeah, any creative solution.
That would make no sense in a game of Zweihander. But it also has lots of quirky NPCs and unexpected comedic moments. And that's all encouraged, both from the GM, the quest that's actually written on the page, and the players. And often when you're playing a Hijinks quest, the stakes are far lower, but the fun factor is high. So there's a lot of laughter around the table, a lot of goofery, but, you know, you're not saddled with having that ring to throw into a volcano. An example that you might see like in a Hijinks quest, like something that could be an obstacle, you might have a control who doesn't allow the players to cross the bridge unless they listen to his bad poetry or try to outrhyme him or have a poetry contest.
Like a slam poetry contest.
A slam poetry contest or something like that, where the players will get to be creative and goofy and the stakes are pretty low because you're crossing a bridge. That sort of conflict you'll see in a Hijinks quest. Lighthearted.
Right. And then when we move on to Daring Do, which is, like we said, like The Princess Bride and The Hobbit, that type of thing, and The Lord of the Rings, we're talking about high adventure and swashbuckling action, things like that, where, it's not, the content of the adventure isn't so serious per se, but it requires more heroism and heroic action to solve the problems.
That doesn't mean fighting necessarily. It just means that bravery and heroism are rewarded in this type of quest. Now, the combat that you would face is serious, but it's generally not hopeless. And players are encouraged to be smart and to be valorous.
An example would be where you got to rescue an important person from a ruthless bandit lord. Are you going to sneak in or face everyone head on, or, how are you going to approach your problem? It's going to require some more strategy and bravery than your run of the mill Hijinks quest.
Right. And then the last tone, Doom and Gloom. This is your Conan. This is your Dark Crystal. This is your Mad Max in the Land of Eem. And this is dangerous and unforgiving. Doom and Gloom, the heroes are always faced with very difficult choices. And the evil or the powers that they face are truly deadly and dire. There's less room for humor, although, of course, it's Land of Eem, so there's always something there. But the tone is serious, and there's a tense of a weighty consequence if the players are not successful. And these are your volcano moments. Like these are your moments where, you'll often find some of the higher challenge quests in Land of Eem are Doom and Gloom, or some of the quests that deal with the Gloom King, for example, or other arch villains of the setting.
If you've read Rickety Stitch, yes. The end of book 1, where he's confronted with the shadow of a lich, you know what I mean? That's scary. Stop.
Came out of nowhere, man. And we mentioned it before that we feel mixing tones is an opportunity to have a lot of fun around the table. And it's how we play, and it's how we've played with all of our friends in different groups for decades. So our expectation is that other people might play like us, where it could shift all the time. And now we wanted to develop a game that rewarded that kind of shift and engineered it into the actual setting.
Someone on our Discord recently said, and I think this perfectly captures what we were trying to go for. And they said, Eem walks the tightrope of being both silly and serious, which perfectly encapsulates the excitement of classic role-playing games and the earnest, whimsical humor of the Muppets. And that couldn't distill what we were trying to do more perfectly.
That's totally true. So just to recap, tone is important to us, and we think it's an important tool to master to have a lot of fun at the table. And we encourage everybody to try to shift from silly to grim every once in a while, because I think that it is a powerful way to make your campaigns feel organic and long lasting and really fun.
Right. You will avoid burnout, I think, more easily by shifting the tones of your campaigns and varying it up. Not being completely goofball off the wall all the time or grim, dark, serious, just oscillating between the two. It's going to create some of the best moments, I think, that you will ever have, no matter what system you're playing. I think, for all the reasons that we've said, that little tonal shift, it's like this frisson, if you will.
I could tell that you were just a heartbeat away from a Jeff Goldblum impression just there, just like so close. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm waiting for the moment that Ben can't help it and he just starts talking like Jeff Goldblum on the Wizards of Eem podcast. It's only a matter of time. I know, between recordings, like he'll just dive right into it and I get to see it in all its glory.
I don't want to overdo it on the actual play. Just
I get that.
Be the thing that
I get that. It's got to matter, but there's already calls for Jeff Goldflesh to return to the actual play.
But he will.
Check him out in the next sandbox. He's going to be there. Anyway, that's all we've got for you guys today. Drop us a comment. What's your favorite RPG tone? Are you silly or are you grimdark? And if you have tried this out, we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and to explore the Land of Eem.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.